Hello everybody, Tracy Sizemore here. It is day 24 of RPG a Day. The main question today is share a pay-what-you-want publisher who should be charging more, and I'm gonna skip that one because I just don't know. So there you go. I'm going to go to an alternate question, which is what part or parts of an RPG session do you look forward to most? Which is something I've been looking forward to answering. Because it makes it personal, I suppose. Okay, so I have a couple of answers. There's certain certain parts of an RPG session that the reason I play, right? Some of this I've covered already, is that emotional connection between characters and, by extension, players. I play for that, but that is relatively rare. So you can't count on that. It happens sometimes, but it doesn't happen all the time. So I definitely look forward to that, and I've sort of covered some of that in previous videos. Between my most impactful session and I forget the other one. What do you look to get out of an RPG experience? I find it annoying that the most interesting questions are the alternate questions, to me. I wish more of the questions were of the character of the alternate questions. But that's just me, I suppose. I don't know. I realize that I'm an outlier in terms of being willing to talk about some more personal stuff about my role-playing than other people are. And it's easier and less dangerous and vulnerable to talk about, what our favorite art is or what our favorite layouts are. So, I don't know. I'll get off my soapbox on that, but I find some of the questions are just, So, anyway, some of the things I look forward to most in an RPG session. So when I'm running a mystery, which I do quite a bit, the mysteries I run are ones that I write. And I spend a lot of time writing them. Because in mysteries, the details matter. So if you don't get those details right, you can inadvertently send the players off on a direction that won't garner any fruit. And if you don't have control or know how to guide them back, or have mechanisms in place that sort of encourage them to get on a better track, it can all fall apart. And RPG mysteries can be risky. I don't know, that's the best way to describe it. But that's why I write my own. Because if I know it, and I know what I'm thinking, and it's also why I play test them beforehand, before I run it in any kind of public setting. So mysteries can be risky, but they can also be super rewarding, both for players and for the GM. And one of my favorite session moments, meaning the part of the session when I'm running a mystery at a con game, say I'm running The Case of the Doping Dolphin or The Curious Death of Violet Evans, which are both mysteries that I wrote. When I'm running one of those at a con, that moment when the players start to figure it out is magical. It's magical. Because mysteries, unlike, say, emergent play, you can do a mystery, I guess, as an emergent play thing, which means play to find out what happens, meaning The GM doesn't have a set idea of what happened or what the game is before the players interact with it. You can try to do that and make a mystery out of it. I don't think you're going to be very successful. I think if you're going to run a mystery, you have to know what the mystery is and what actually happened, and have the people and characters and events in place, and leave them for the players to discover. You can't just on the fly, well, maybe somebody better than me can, but you can't just on the fly say, all right, well, you come upon, you're a group of, you're a private eye and, sort of amateur detectives or whatever, and you come upon a murder scene, and you see this, and here's what you find, and blah, 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 and you can't just make that stuff up. I mean, I suppose somebody better than me could. I can't make that stuff up. I have to have that stuff set. What clues are they going to find at that crime scene? And where are those clues going to lead them? I've got a whole thing about mysteries. But I'm trying not to derail my own question here. So, my point is, at that moment, when the players, the character, and the PCs start to figure out what's happening, and what has happened, and what they might be able to do about it, is one of the most satisfying moments in a gaming session for me. It is joyful to see that dawn on their face. It's like, oh, so, and sometimes it can be a gut reaction, like, I know what's, in the Curious Death of Violet Evans, which is a supernatural sort of horror mystery, you can see in their face when they're like, oh, I know what happened. It's, there is nothing quite like that, watching a player go through that emotion. So, that's cool. The other thing that I look forward to most in sessions is when I've got an adventure set and characters who are in that adventure, and it's not like it is sort of on rails, but obviously the PCs have their say in how things get solved and what they do and what happens. And the beautiful part of role-playing is that the players are going to come up with ideas that I could never have thought of on my own. Never. And they're going to come up with solutions that I would never have thought of. And part of the fun of RPGs and creating NPCs that are fleshed out like I like to do, NPCs that have their own motivations and own, loves and own, that have their own reasons for doing things, is when the players come up with one of those solutions or one of those things that they're going to do that I did not expect or that I would not have ever thought of, I know my NPCs well enough to know how they're going to react to that. And the discovery of how an NPC reacts to what the players do is one of the best moments in an RPG session for me. When they're like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna say this to this NPC, and part of the fun of it is reacting as that NPC, knowing that their motivations are theirs, and knowing that they love certain things and that they do certain things for reasons, to react as that NPC, and in the process give the PCs and the players some information in that context that helps them in the adventure. I don't know. I'm not describing it well, but that moment of discovery of something you didn't predict, and yet, I know this person well enough to how they're going to react, and that is going to be fun. if they actually say that to this person, you know. And I can also give them information about the adventure that they're in through the context of an NPC reacting emotionally to what the players do. I love that. That's a moment I live for in RPG role-playing. Let's see. So, as speaking of one-shots, one of the moments I most look forward to in sessions is that tipping point, the point at which, the line at which you cross, when the awkwardness of we're a bunch of strangers sitting down to play a game together and we don't know our characters and we don't know what the setting is and we don't quite trust the GM yet. There's before that line, and when you cross that line over into, now I understand the setting well enough, I get my character well enough, I see what the GM is doing, and now we're playing. Then the awkwardness and all that sort of unsureness that happens inevitably, especially at a public con game, when that awkwardness finally fades away and we start playing, that is a great moment. I try to engineer my games and my GMing style to bring that moment as close to the beginning of the session as possible. It's hard. It's hard to do. But it's something that I actively try to do. That moment between awkwardness and we're a bunch of strangers to playing, and now we're getting along and understanding each other and we're in it for a common goal. When that happens, relief and exhilaration. So I look forward to that. Finally, as a player, what I look forward to most in an RPG session as a player is when I cooperate with another player, and it doesn't necessarily mean that our characters are cooperating together, but me as a player cooperating with another player to create a story between our characters. Whether that means they're falling in love, or whether it means they're, having hate sex, or whatever, or conspiring against each other in some nefarious way. I love it when the players are cooperating to tell this story of the characters who may or may not be cooperating. And that happens a lot in my home group. When we see things, we see eye to eye about how things could play out with these characters, and we cooperate to make it happen. And by extension, of course, other players get involved and get to react to that. I love that moment in RPGs. Again, it sort of tracks back to my whole reason for playing, which is to have a connection with the other people at the table, to work together to do something, to not work apart. Which is why I don't like things like, I don't generally love things like this traditional fantasy setting where somebody's playing a thief who wants to steal from other PCs. I don't like that so much. I mean, I understand it. And you could make the case that that would be players cooperating to tell the story. And if you did it that way, it could be fun. But if you just do it as a thief passing a note to the GM saying, I'm going to steal this person's stuff, without that other player having a say in or at least knowing what you're doing so that they can figure out a way to have their character react that's fun, and rather than being, the victim. I mean, you're making the other player the victim in that situation. I don't like that. That's something I don't like. I think it can be fun if all the players are on board with what's going on and and have an idea about how their characters will react in a fun way that makes the game fun. If you're just doing it because your thief is a thief and they don't care about the people they're with, I mean, some people like that, but that's just not generally what I like. So, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going all negative now, so I'll stop. But those are the general things that I look most forward to in an RPG session. And I really wish that these were main questions, because I really would like to hear other people answer them. Oh well, what are you going to do? Instead, I get to hear about RPG pay what you want publishers and who should be charging more, which seems boring. Okay, so I will talk to you later. Okay.